Hello and welcome to the penultimate day of E3. We're fresh, we're raw, we're ready to rock. We've had a phenomenal day yesterday, I think probably the busiest of our time here at E3. And we're just readying up to head out the door as soon as the stream is finished because we are that tightly scheduled today. But hey, it's all fun, all excitement. And as you can see, we're gradually building up a rather formidable collection of swag from the show floor. Always a nice thing handed out by publishers to any visitors to their booths.
Well, not any.
Some.
The VIPs.
VIPs. Yeah. But yes, yesterday, like I said, was pretty rammed and rocked.
We should perhaps say that some of this stuff, depending on a little bit how bulky it is, may actually be won by a lucky viewer.
We'll do this as a sort of best of E3 stream tomorrow morning.
Yep.
And obviously evening for you guys. We will be handing away this and whatever else we manage to grab over the course of the day to, yes, one lucky viewer if we can get it through customs. What is this, sir?
It's a lot of caveats, yeah.
But hopefully so. Hopefully that will get. That will be.
Well, I can guarantee you these ones won't be part of it.
Those will be consumed within about 5 minutes of the stream ending. Try and wake us up.
Energy drink or is that classic artificial flavor?
You never read the back of the label on those things. You just open, guzzle, and hope to God your heart doesn't stop.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna send off the jerky either.
Oh. Jesus, that way. I don't need that. Seeing that first thing in the morning. Right. So yesterday, I mean, what for you? How did you kick off?
Kick off. No, go back all the way till.
Rewind. Flashback. I could tell you because I've got the sheet right here.
I think I was at actually one of the places where you see some swag from. This one. Yes, I was at Techland. I saw Hellraid. Mm-hmm. And I played Dying Light. Really, it's not until you play Dying Light that you realize how much it differs from Dead Island.
All right,
it's really all about the traversal and the agility that you have. Mm-hmm. Got to play first. I got to sort of get to grips with the game, playing a daytime mission, sort of getting to a specific position and sort of looking at some human bandits. Mm-hmm. Had a situation there in a safe house that I had to sort, but thing is, they're scared of the night as well as you are.
Okay.
So I slept a little bit, got to play the nighttime. Mm-hmm. They were gone. There were others around. Mm-hmm. These volatiles that sort of makes the game a little bit like a stealth game because they have these cones that you can see on your minimap. Okay. Where they will react to you if you're inside. Mm-hmm. You'll have to use sort of distractions, noise grenades, something like that, to sort of sonic grenades to get them to move in another direction. If you get noticed by them, they will swarm you. Yeah. And it's all over.
So basically swarm, that's it. Death.
Well, it's not. You can get away. Yeah. Of course, I panicked, ran into a house, with my back against the wall. Typical, like in a game, the situation you normally want to have one door in front of you, and just whack. Yeah. Didn't work. I just got swarmed. And instead, what you should do is just throw the sonic grenade one direction, run the other. And then we got sort of to play a later stage in the game when we've sort of leveled up all our abilities, and we got to see that as well, which in a different, much more interesting environment was Old Town. A lot of, the buildings still look great, so it's not that sort of everything's worn down post-apocalyptic thing that we're sort of used to. Still, of course, it was sort of wrecked, but not to the degree that, say, most of the stuff we're seeing.
So with the abilities, with the sort of skip forward in time, what sort of extra abilities you have?
Well, mainly it was just you're so much quicker and better at. I mean, you're more efficient in combat, obviously, but also like climbing things, because Old Town was much more vertical, so the buildings were much larger, and you had to get around. So you climb much quicker. You could jump further. You had already in the beginning you jumped ridiculously far. I mean, you jump from rooftops, but when you level everything up, you're even more proficient. So, but the main thing is you're much quicker. So you can, I mean, one of the first abilities I unlocked was like a dodge roll and things like that. So you start out really basic, and then you get small things, but then you sort of progress those as well, so they're faster. And
see, I prefer that rather than just gradually getting bigger and better weapons. I like the actual agility changing and adapting, because I guess you enter and interact with the environment in a wholly different way, basically.
That's not saying that the weapons don't get better, because obviously weapons and crafting that is sort of a big part of Dead Island, and that's carried forward to Dying Light. Dying Light looks great. Coming out early next year, I think it is. The other game they had at Techland was Hellraid, self-published title that basically is a hack-and-slash first-person dungeon adventure. What you'd expect from that, basically. Not really, anything that'll make us scratch our heads.
But still good for fans of the genre.
Yeah, looking very good, and of course Techland, with the experience they have in sort of first-person melee, it's that is where they want to shine. Like say the combat, and everybody loves Elder Scrolls, but I don't think anyone would say that sort of the first-person combat is the best in the best you could imagine. So, that I think there's a little bit of space there to provide gamers with great combat in that sort of genre.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Okay, something on the radar.
Yep.
For myself, my morning was spent with a VR helmet wrapped around my eyes, which was surprisingly all right. I thought that early in the morning, vomit may appear out of my mouth and all over a booth. But luckily enough, the guys at CCP Games had basically this Zen garden space, beautiful little conference room that was done up in the galaxy all. They
usually have a very nice setup at E3.
Yeah, man. This was no different. I actually wish they could have stayed a bit longer. Yeah, but we kicked off with a 3-minute dogfight demo of Valkyrie, the tech demo that was turned into a fully fledged game. Talking to the guys directly after, and they say they're still sort of finding their way as to what they want this experience to be, because I sort of asked about modes, whether you could expand beyond just this sort of dogfight thing, because they want this sort of the contrast between that and EVE Online, even though it's completely shared universe with that and Legion. The idea is sort of 3 very different experiences. They said they're sort of testing around with the idea. I mean, I did, just before I went there, jumped in to have a go on Elite, because after you were going on about it yesterday, I actually popped in. Those guys were still waking up, and I was like, look, I'm really sorry, I haven't got an appointment, but my guy just won't stop talking about this. I need to see what this is like. They're like, yeah, come in. So basically it was only just a standard sort of PC, but damn, I see what you're talking about, man. Yep. That is insane. They showed me the star map, and they're just like, yeah, we don't know how many planets there are. But that was pretty cool. But Valkyrie was very much dogfight, and as a guy who's a massive fan of Colony Wars back in the PS1, loved that. Anything sort of space dogfighting, brilliant. And this is the best experience I've had in Oculus Rift yet. So CCP Games are pretty much pioneering all the new tech for that, and jumping out. So you get in you're in your craft to begin with in the hangar. It's pretty much like that. Anybody seen that Battlestar Galactica episode where the Vipers are sitting in Galactica when they sort of jump onto New Earth, basically to do the thing? So you're sitting there like that, and you can just sort of look around the cockpit, look behind you, look up and down. And I was just like, I'm happy doing this for the next 5 minutes, because I just felt so chill. The only thing is, at the moment, so you'll have like sort of pedals like that, or the virtual representative of pedals your feet are on, and then obviously flight sticks, both of which don't really move, but they're obviously looking to fix that at some point, depending on the technology, because they want everybody to be able to play this. But you get pumped out, and it's basically 2-on-2 dogfight in and around. Oh, I had a great time. So it's all just, thrust, yaw, braking, coming around, and the great thing is, as you're coming around, you are effectively, I mean, you've played it, right? Yeah, that sort of feeling as you're coming around, you're seeing the ship go, and you're going like that and trying to turn the ship at the same time. It's not very much I'm locked in. And love that whole concept of holding down the left trigger, and you look, and you have to hold it there for a while on enemy craft to get the lock on with the missiles. Really, really nice, simple experience that was just beautiful. Really enjoyed it. The counter went along to End Dreams in the concourse a little bit down the way to try their new thing, which is called the Assembly. So this is a very sort of stripped down, real indie title, first person, where you're basically an experiment that's been kidnapped and brought into this underground lab somewhere, and effectively you wake up in your room and you just have to try and escape and get through and out the lab. So it's two different perspectives. One's one of the patients, not real patient, kidnapped victim, and the other is actually one of the scientists who's been in this part of this experiment for years. Welcome back again. Slight technical issues. I think someone forgot to put a power plug in something in that vast collection of tech behind the camera, but it allows us to refresh and have a little chit chat between us before we came back on. Yeah, so End Dreams.
Yes.
Decent indie stuff, basically.
Yeah. I think actually yesterday you sent me to the End Dreams booth on accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wasn't meant to go there. I was meant to go to InnoGames. But I got the whatever. It was in the same hall, so
you need
it was
the exercise, man.
Very close. Bit of a surprise for me. I hadn't really caught up on the game Rising Generals that much. Obviously, it's one of those browser, mobile, free-to-play strategy games. Interestingly enough, advisor on the project is Bruce Shelley. I met him at that booth. Of course, worked on the first Civilization, sort of established Ensemble Studios and Age of Empires. He's not really like the game designer or anything, but they brought him on as an advisor to sort of take a look at the game. And what's nice about that game is that they sort of turned around the friction. Free to play is all about friction, having people wait. So instead of having the cooldown before you get to do something, they have the cooldown after. So you do something, then you go away, and you can do something again, which is, a lot other games have done that, but typically in this genre, you initiate something and then you have to wait, and then you can do the action. Here it's like you can do it, and then you got to cool down after you've done the action. So, maybe a little bit less frustration in that built in. We'll see.
Okay.
But Rising Generals, pretty interesting game. Yeah.
Cool. That's good. Yeah. We had there's another free-to-play title, which was actually the Hitman Sniper game, iOS game, which the guys were very obvious. As soon as they said, it's free, I went, and they went, we know what the question you're going to ask is. It's like, okay, so answer the question I was going to ask. They're like, don't have to pay for anything at all. If you just want to sort of skip ahead, get new weapons, obviously you can pay for that, but please, it's all free. It's genuinely free. Yeah. And that was a really, really fun title. I got a bit of hands-on before we did the interview, and it's all about obviously doing sniper challenges, just one-handed. So they said they've iterated on again and again and again just to get it really smooth and really nice. So it's a variety of different locations and scenarios. Agent 47 is basically far and away somewhere looking through the scope of a sniper rifle, and it's working out environmental sort of attacks you can do. So a guard's leaning against a glass barricade, shoot the glass, he'll fall to his death, explode one of those nice little flame things you see at clubs. Just a combination. It's just you dicking about with the area.
Does it feel a little bit sandboxy, or is it more straightforward what you're supposed to do? Or?
No, it's sort of, the idea is you really sort of study the areas. There's no explanation other than here's your target, kill him. Now you can do that. You can pretty much just take him out, but it's a sort of points-based game. It's like high score. So the more other people you take out without being noticed, the more score you get. If the target notices, he'll rabbit and you have to kill him before he disappears. And the idea is they've got the high score table, they've got top right hand side of the screen. The idea is you're always just underneath the person who's ahead of you. So there's always those type of mini challenges to try to beat that next person. And it's sort of free form. What you can do is a couple little bonuses if you look around the environment, study it well enough and work out sort of guard patrols and everything. But I mean, for a free title, I was quite impressed.
Next up, I had an interview yesterday with Sony Computer Entertainment Europe's president, Jim Ryan. I've had an interview with him the last couple of years, I think. This is probably my third year in a row. And walking into that hotel room, because that was done off-site, not at E3.
Yeah.
I'm welcomed by he recognizes me and says, "Here comes trouble." Because last year, during the interview, he sort of implied that they're going to have a lot of new games at Gamescom.
Yeah.
Not maybe earth-shattering news, because usually they have a press conference and they have stuff to show there.
Yeah.
So we'd expect that, but it got a little bit of attention, and apparently that got back to him because people told him, like, you know, maybe you shouldn't have said this.
Yeah.
So it was one of those moments where, you know, it's kind of funny. Just a little bit. An aside, not part of an interview, and you won't see that on GRTV. Sadly, we weren't filming, but a little bit funny. Very good interview. Got some clarifications on sort of the European position on some of the stuff like PlayStation Now and PlayStation TV, things like that. So before the end of the year, PlayStation TV and PlayStation Now, they probably have something to say at Gamescom about that. We'll see.
I guess that is the best platform for it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, you know, once again he iterated that PlayStation Now is a challenge to do in Europe. So
well, at least he's acknowledging it rather than just having that sort of blasé, we'll get it done, and then it doesn't work out. And they're like, we tried.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, with PlayStation TV, if they can get PlayStation Now running at the same time, have a €100, sub €100, sub £100 console, basically out of the box playing PS3 games, streaming, that would be
I'd go for that.
Pretty strong move, I think, for Europe, in sort of expanding the PlayStation base players.
Cool. Yeah. But the thing is, would that attract other people in the hardcore? Because I imagine the hardcore would have PS3s already.
Yeah.
And that, obviously the complexity of those games, it's not for the touch and swipe crowd who maybe just have got into gaming through the mobile market.
You got obviously plays the Vita games, and that's why it's big in Japan.
Yeah.
You can take home your Vita games, play them on the TV. Here, I think, the range of games on the PS3 is huge. So you're not getting this sort of the Android mobile games on it, but you're getting something that's a little bit better. And I think it can be positioned as something that if PlayStation Now works and the streaming works, and you can buy a subscription and you get a certain amount of games every month, whatever the setup. We don't know what the setup's going to be with that.
Conjecture at the moment.
I can just imagine that it's going to be some sort of subscription, and you're going to get access to a certain number of titles, like for all time, and maybe you can unlock certain things. Maybe they're free for a month, and then you can pay something and you'll get them for free to stream them or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that. But regardless, just the fact that they are sort of pushing down the threshold to entering PlayStation and sort of becoming a PlayStation player is significant. For me personally, it's all about being able to stream in my home to a second TV, PS4, play PS4 games in my bedroom without having to buy a second PS4. So, and I think PS4 players a lot will get that for that reason.
So you're not even thinking about picking up a white PS4. You wouldn't go, hey, I need that second PlayStation. This is a precise time to go.
I don't know, because everything I've got right now is black.
And this thing will sit out like a sore thumb.
I'm not sure about. I think it's beautiful on its own, but I'm not sure how it would fit with the rest of my.
It's not going with my decor, man. Really doesn't tie the room together, unfortunately.
I mean, when they provide us with alternatives, that's how we think.
Yeah, look, just get a brush, some paint, and just go wild, man. Hopefully the thing doesn't seize up. I have no way of segueing from that to Deep Silver. I've been thinking while you've been talking, I have actually zero way of doing this, so I'm just going to go, I went to see Deep Silver yesterday. Metro, Homefront, back-to-back interviews. Metro, I think we've talked quite enough about that extensively on the website and certainly in the print magazine. Homefront, though, got a couple of little extra details, because during the reveal pre-E3 event, they mentioned just the last thing in that interview was single player and the co-op was different, and they clarified it this time around. So there is basically a wholly single player campaign, and then in the same locations, in the same areas, you can do co-op sort of mode, co-op little missions. So it's not quite the expanse of all.
It's not drop in, drop out.
No, exactly. Which is, I think I'm absolutely fine with that. But it's just whether the convenience of it is going to work. And I also found out the whole Far Cry 4 thing. You know, the thing about not actually owning the game, how that works. So they said basically they're doing it as they want to tease people the game with the intention of, you know, maybe you'll buy it if you try it. So apparently every copy of the game will come with a code. And what you can do is give that code to friends of yours. They download the code, one-off download, and that's sitting on their machine. And then if you're doing any of those missions like we saw during the conference, you ping them, you know they're online, and all they do is fire up that client, and boom, they're in.
All right, so it's specific missions where they can help out then.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, you can
just play around.
Yeah, play around. Now they said there's going to be some sort of time, you know, cap on it. I'm not talking maybe. It's not specifically. I don't think the game per se where you only play for like 50 minutes and then it'll shunt you out. It might be maybe the code will work for a few days or something like that. But the idea is really give you this big piece of the game you can run about with a buddy who actually owns it and sort of just get a tourist's view of what the game would be like. And I think it's a really cool idea.
It's a really cool idea. Of course, it's not the same thing as being able to play it. It was presented a little bit more generously at the conference, but we were kind of curious as to how that would work. Yeah. So nice to know exactly how that works. I guess it's going to be a chunky download though.
Who knows? Hopefully so. But I guess it's a one-off thing and you do it right at the start.
Yeah. That's
cool. So after that, it's all convenient for you.
Yeah.
When and where you want. Clocked through a few of the Ubisoft guys. So the crew, the crew was insane. Have you been past the Ubisoft booth? The crew setup, okay, so they've got all the machines set up for multiplayer, but as with Forza's setup at Microsoft, they have a massive, like, you know...
Yeah, I think I've seen that at other shows, they bring it around.
Yeah, and it's not just, you know, it's not like that, it goes all over the place. So the people that were on sort of mountainous terrain, trying to go up and down hills, are crashing. It felt like that thing was almost going to flip in 180. I think a few people actually had to stop it while we were interviewing, because they're like, I'm going to throw, I'm going to hurl if I carry on with this. And that's a kit that would far outstrip anybody's budget, but it's highly recommended if you get along to a trade show or something like that and you're demoing it. That's one of the lifetime type experiences you've got to try out. That's racing for you, and that was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, it's the days of the arcade halls is sort of gone. Yeah, but that's the kind of experiences you had there. Of course, not to that level, but you know, playing something like, was it R360 from Sega that had sort of twisting, turning thing? Yeah, I think so. And there used to be cabinets that sort of twisted and turned you around. Of course, there's really no arcade culture anymore. No. I mean, the culture is still there, but it's not really being fed.
If an arcade hall bought this, they wouldn't have anything else in it. An empty room and this in the middle just with a plug socket and a cord going into it.
Why can't they just do it anyway? I mean, money isn't everything, right?
Yeah, but you imagine the old arcade machines, it was a pound coin to get in. This, you'd have to just sell your house and have a go on it. But we also stopped by the Just Dance boys. Now, Massive Entertainment is working on this.
Really?
Yeah, so the Just Dance Now, that thing that was demoed at the conference that no one believed was real, the Massive guys said, no, that was actually all real time. There's no smoke and mirrors about that. So, yeah, there's a bunch of boys at Massive, while they're not working on the Division, are helping out with the Just Dance crew and creating the tech behind this. So, yeah, apparently it just works as they said on the conference hall. One thing I did point out was, if you've had any party with the Spotify playlist as the background, within about 5 minutes people start trying to take that over and change the playlist. And I was wondering if you have 8 people, 10 people, however, it's stadium full of people, who decides what the playlist is? So apparently someone is synced up as the controller and you can choose, you can go on the TV and change over who you want to be the controller. They said they're looking at it at the moment with the intention of trying to simplify that if the feedback is enough that they want an easier system. I mean, nothing they said, this is pure speculation on my part, but you ever use Bump? It's an app on iOS. So Bump is basically a product tech where if you want to transfer, this is before AirDrop, but if you want to transfer like a file between 2 phones, the idea is you can bring the phones together and just go like that, okay? It's just proximity really, but they call it the Bump. So I could imagine something like that. It's like, okay, I want to be the controller, come over, dunk, and then the control flips over.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a nice idea, and they said it's basically the exact same. They've replicated the gyro controller, the gyro reader from the Wii version, and just applied that to the gyros with the mobile. And they said they're even applying it to all these different Android and iOS devices, so it works with everything. But it came from there, and I heard you guys ended up seeing the order. 1586.
We did. Actually got some hands-on as well. What we did see from the order was, I'm sure you've all seen the Sony presentation. If you haven't, check it out on the sites. We got to see that demo a little bit extended, and we also got to see what happens when you don't hit the button. You don't make when you're a little bit too slow. You got to see them fail, because I think a lot of people were sort of, oh, this is quick time. It's not quite quick time events in the order 1886. There are things where it's triggered moments, say, but it was a little bit more dynamic than perhaps what the demo suggested. I mean, they're using a mix of cinematics, of real-time gameplay, of sort of set pieces. Sort of, it's a mix all the time. So it's kind of hard to follow what's what. And you almost get the sensation that it's like a big chunk of cinematics, press a button, and then you move on to the next cinematic. You got that impression, but it's not at all like that. Okay. So interesting to see that, and there was a funny thing that happened during the after the presentation, because I hate to call out journalists, but sometimes the questions that are asked at the Q&As, I wish I had a camera along just to sort of point out like what's going on here.
It's the reaction of the day as well.
The first question, after having seen a demonstration of the Order 1886, game that's coming out February 2015, was how about the sequel?
That's the first question. Jesus.
I mean, I don't know what to say. It's
par course that you may that question will come up, and it almost becomes we sort of turn it into a joke almost. The idea is but that's sort of launch. You turn around during a launch interview and go, okay, obviously it's the big question.
Yeah.
Are you guys interested in returning? Blah. But first question for the first reveal is a little bit extreme. What was the reply?
I mean, it's like well. We gotta finish this game first, but obviously they consider it they created the universe first. They created a universe where they can create many games. And this is just the first window into that universe they've created. They spent a lot of time on that, so obviously that's something that they would like to do. But what they would want to do it if people like the first one, if there's interest in it, then of course they will have interest in doing more. It's the typical PC answer. I mean, but I mean, if you ask a question like that and you sort of already know what the answer is going to be, don't ask it. And if that's the first question you got, imagine if that was
bad are the other ones.
Imagine what it would have been like if it was a one-on-one interview, and that would have been your first question sitting down with the I mean, that would just have shut down the conversation completely.
That would just stand up, slap you, and walk out of the room. Screw you, man. I'm not here for this.
So that was a little bit of an aside, a little bit behind the scenes, the craziness that happens at E3. Group interviews and group presentations can sometimes be testing on the patience, if you will. The game looks great. The combat, obviously cover-based shooter, sort of. I would say somehow it's like a mixture, the game, of something like Last of Us and Gears of War. The weapons are very different. We got to play with the termite gun, which basically sends out a cloud of termite, and then you send out a secondary fire, and you ignite it. So it's like a cloud that just bursts into flame. Nick was playing it, and I played it before, so he didn't get the instructions on how that gun worked. So he shot out a bunch of clouds all over the place, and then it's like, but they don't do anything. They don't hurt any
so
of the,
friendly.
of the enemies, and
Because he wants to defend his honor.
No. It was basically my fault.
I'll tell you, Ben. This is how it went.
I was shooting,
that at all.
and I didn't understand how people weren't dying. So I was just shooting at all the enemies, and then I shot the. I was like, I remember there was something about a secondary fire, and I shot up, and everything just lit up. It was pretty awesome.
I love this imagery.
They do go like they get hit like a little bit, like stumble. But I was like, okay, how many bullets do they take?
You were just testing the particle system in the game to see how much you could get on
I
there.
hope there wasn't a developer standing behind me because he must have been.
I really hope there was. You know he's going back to the development studio. Don't you know?
We need bigger letters in the beginning explaining what to do. But Bing did say like, "Oh, you didn't miss anything. There's nothing. No important information."
You didn't miss anything of the demo, but you didn't get the instructions.
Oh, that's tickled me pink.
But it was pretty awesome. I played through it twice actually.
You did when I bumped into you late on yesterday. You were completely all over that.
Yeah, that is my game of show.
Wow.
It's the story is awesome.
It's the attention to detail.
Yeah, like, and it's not the audio logs that you have to pick up and all that stuff. It's like you can go and read a note on a wall if you want to. You can move on.
Or listen to something. There was like a, and there's that passive storytelling that you know you can take it in if you want. And people will have different experiences.
Okay.
People will sort of see different sides of the universe because maybe you won't stay around to listen to something or read that newspaper that's over there. It's that sort of thing.
When you see the newspaper, it's like a click and then it pops up on screen. You can sort of pan and look at it.
I think I saw some things that were like that, and others
that was just on the wall.
Things,
so is it like a Resident Evil sort of style where the text appears?
But they also said in the presentation, everything they put in the world, if there is a newspaper or something, then you can, if it's on a wall, maybe you can just go over and read it.
Okay,
cool. And some things you can pick up. But everything is, you can read the text. Cool. Everything is real, and also every item in the world is built as a separate item. So you can shoot it or push it, and it will fall over, and it'll have physics.
Nice. Okay.
So I know when I play, I'll have some areas. Maybe if there's enemies, you'll run through it, and other times I want to explore. And so that combination of not feeling forced into looking at, like, walking next to the wall and pressing a button and checking everything out. But still having the world feel real if you want to see, oh, what is that over there?
Another thing that they talked about in the presentation was the lichen that you see in the demo. That's sort of the first introduction to that enemy. So that's why it's sort of cinematic. But the thing is that the transformation that he does there is real time, and it will happen in game just as you play. Because the power of the PlayStation is such that they can just transform.
And they sound like you'll meet multiple of those at the same time as well, and where they will transform in front of you. I can't wait. Like, can you imagine like walking through an alleyway and then there's like a group of those transforming?
Stealthing it, and then you sort of, you hit something, there's a noise, and they transform.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Shooting was very solid. The combat mechanics seemed very cool.
Yeah.
Does it feel like Gears of War? In that sort of sense,
for me, I was never a Gears fan, and that felt a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
And this doesn't to me. So this
feels more mobile with the character.
It doesn't feel like it's the same sort of. I mean, Gears of War had that sort of feeling of arenas where you go in. It feels a little bit more like a Call of Duty setup, I would say.
Yeah, but it is some sort of combination between a Call of Duty. Uncharted, Last of Us,
I'm talking
Gears.
like the progression of it. It's more.
But it also has more of the speed of Call of Duty, and you can crawl up. When I played the demo as well, I tried to like sort of. It's very narrow what you get to try, and it's like 5 minutes. But I tried to go like straight one time, and another time I tried to crawl up on an area, and it's very. You feel more mobile, and you feel like you have speed, but it's still. Cover shooter where you have a little bit of that like weight to it where you jump into cover.
But what I'm saying is like it's not the Gears of War one. It's like it's almost like you get locked into an arena and then you negotiate from maybe you flank them on that side and you sort of it's a little bit
finish that arena.
It felt more like here we're going from one place to another. It's more like in that sense.
But we don't know how much the rest of the game will be like.
No.
Again, the thing we saw with the Lycan, they said is that's how they introduce the character, because they want to control it. They want you to experience the character the first time in a certain way.
Yeah.
And then after that, it'll be more normal combat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I mean
great stuff.
that's the thing. That the key thing is that they want to mix it up all the time. The Order really was the first of many Victorian themed games that I saw yesterday.
I'll jump out.
Hi, Nick.
Next up, I saw Bloodborne, the new game from Miyazaki at From Software, of course, of Demon Soul fame. Back into the Sony house. Game looks very much like a Victorian take on Dark Souls.
Yeah.
No surprises there. Got to see an amazing boss fight. It's kind of funny because, you know, everyone knows what these games are about. It's about extreme challenge, very difficult. So seeing it played without HUD and in God mode isn't really... it's not really... I mean, while I get to see what's in the game, I'm not really seeing the proper game, you know what I mean? So they were joking like, yeah, we play it in God mode, yes, because otherwise we'd be here for so long, and it wouldn't be fun. I sort of don't agree with that. I would rather see them fail a few times, but what, you know, maybe not the highest fidelity. It didn't look as good as the Order in terms of graphics, but there were some really nice effects in there that I really liked. There was a big boss fight on a bridge, and there's just some blur effect, something when that boss attacked that just looked awesome, like
cool,
completely awesome. Very much. A lot of details, and of course you got that sort of the big sort of, I don't even know, cleaver thing.
Yeah, that thing you saw during the demo. Yeah.
So obviously they're mixing up the weapons a little bit. There's guns as well. It's a little bit different in that sense, but it very much feels, you know, you even have the sort of little glow when you kill an enemy, that everyone will sort of. I think they're going to put a twist on it. They didn't want to talk about that, so maybe it has some sort of other meaning in this game. But you know, obviously, this builds on the foundation of those games: Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and but a different setting. And I think that's really refreshing because you know, it would have been even more refreshing if there wasn't the Order, if there wasn't, what else did I say that was Victorian? The Devil's Men. And there was something else. Battle Cry. Also Victorian style.
Yeah.
All games very different. There's nothing in common with them, but apparently the sort of the post-industrial age Victorian era is sort of like
the new go-to.
The new thing for game developers. So
that's weird because I was along at a Nintendo event directly after the halls closed. Where they announced a new 3DS title by the Advanced Wars and Fire Emblem guys. So it's Nintendo with intelligent systems, and it is steampunk Victorian England.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's basically that sort of, I don't want to say XCOM because someone asked them about permadeath and they went, mentioning no names, but I hate that. There's no permadeath in the game. But the way they figure it, they spent some time talking about how they acquired the look of the actual game.
No permadeath from the Fire Emblem developers. Yeah. I'm disappointed.
So basically, your cast will die during battle, but they'll be resurrected at the end.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean.
So it's the cheaters mode in Fire Emblem. Then
I don't think they're going to have that as a tagline for it. So
unfaithful.
It's called Codename Steam.
All right.
And I really wish I could remember what the Steam stood for, because they actually did say it at the end. That's going to annoy me now. I had it in my head when we started the stream, and now it's gone. God damn it! But you control each of the characters. It's like a third-person sort of viewpoint. You're actually in amongst the battlefield, and basically same thing, grid style, but you can run wherever you want within that grid space. And then everything in terms of movement and attacks are all built on Steam. So you got like this big pack on you. And then say maybe like 10 Steam dots, so to speak, along the bottom screen. basically go in, shoot, attack, blah, enemy turn, Overwatch, all the usual tropes you're imagining of that particular genre. Initially, it didn't really gel with me, to be honest. When I was looked at, I thought, it's okay, because the thing is, blowing up a 3DS game onto a big, massive screen, it didn't look great. Obviously, it's not going to look fantastic, but also the art style I wasn't really convinced by. But they had the artist out for it, and she was talking about Japanese artists, and she's saying she's been really heavily influenced by American comics and sort of Jack Kirby and Mike Mignola. And once you got into that mindset, you could see what they were going for. And after a while, because there was always someone playing on stage while the other guys were talking, so they were taking turns. And at the end, I was like, I actually want to play this. This is maybe it was the music, maybe it was just the vibe of it, but I actually came out going, okay, I'm convinced by this.
I mean,
picking this up.
Steampunk and intelligent systems, that's two words that has me sold. So
no, like I do not even need to say more. Yeah. But check out for a preview on the site in the coming days, along with a few other things, because you got to see a good, nice, chunky piece of Witcher 3 yesterday.
Yes. Once again, I got to see the long demo. I think what they introduced at the Microsoft conference was basically a Monster Hunt Griffin that you took down. What we saw in the demo was the following of that.
Oh, right.
When you have the Griffin's head, what you do with it, basically you're out to find this girl, someone from Gerald's past that has appeared again, and you're hunting for her. You're trying to find her because you know she's connected to the Wild Hunt. This is the main story now that we're sort of visiting at this E3. So Gerald took care of the Griffin. He gets information. He gets on his mission, and what happens next is this is where, I mean, there's so much to explain. It's a 45-minute demo.
Yeah, it's a lot to back in.
I can't recall it all because I'm gonna have to write it down and sort of give you the full thing rather than sort of just bits and pieces. But there was some really interesting things, and what really struck me is the sort of the fact that you don't really know what's a good and a bad choice. Okay. There's a situation where you can choose to. There's a tree spirit that's been plaguing a village, and you got to take care of it because there's some ladies of the woods that task you with taking care of this problem. People have been disappearing. There's a problem. This tree spirit talks to you as you sort of encounter him in a cave, and he says, you got to help me. I got to save the children. There's an orphanage that you've just passed in the forest. And you can choose to either help him or you can take him out, do your mission, get your information about the girl that you're looking for, follow through on what you were told by the ladies of the wood. Really disturbing, disgusting creatures, by the way. You get to see them a little bit later. First you just see them. There's this woman who communicates with a tapestry, and she gets sort of possessed by these ladies that are on the tapestry, but you actually get to see them later, and they don't exactly look like they do on the tapestry. Let me tell you, the years haven't been kind to them. Anyway, this whole thing, you got the choice there: trust the tree spirit and trying to help it, save the children, or do your mission, take out the spirits, and what they showed in this demo was to take out the tree spirit, and the village elder. You go to him, you say, "I've taken care of your problem. Now people won't disappear anymore." He says, "Okay," and you give him the message that, "Oh, and by the way, the ladies of the wood want their payment." And he cuts off his ear. You take the ear, you place it on a stone, so you get to see the ladies. And you get your information, but obviously the children disappear from the orphanage. So there's a price to pay here, and that's the beauty of The Witcher. There's always consequences, and you may not see them immediately, but basically there's no easy route. There's no safe choice. There's no good alternative. It's all about various bad alternatives, various gray alternatives, and there's positives and negatives to everything. So it's not really a world where you just do good and you can feel good about it. There's probably going to be some bad consequence down the line as well. So impressive demo. We got to see different regions, very different look to what we've seen before. We got to see some swamps, some very sort of washed out, sort of dusty region. We got to see Novigrad, the biggest city, huge city, really huge. Lots of stuff going on there. So
this is just insane, the amount of stuff they're putting into this game.
Absolutely, and like we got the demo was 45 minutes, but they fast traveled and they did things a little bit faster than you do in the game. It would probably be something that would play out over an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours in the game, that you'd see all this. So yeah. Very, a lot to write about.
Yeah, a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's one of those presentations that's always rammed, isn't it? Because the number I've walked past that room a few times on my way to other interviews, and it always just there's people cramming around.
It's a huge theater. They're doing it hourly, and it was completely full. People were sitting in the aisle, and then they've even got the same demo running down at Warner, because Warner is the US publisher, so down in the booth at Warner they got the same demo running. Still, it's like one of those things that everybody's got to see, but you know, they can only blame themselves because they also gave away these big boxes. You see there?
Gerald statues.
So of course everybody wants to get in there.
get the goods, basically. Yeah. That's insane. That sounds absolutely amazing. I'm so excited about that, and I love the fact it's the first thing out next year.
Yeah.
Early 2015 is going to be fantastic.
February 24th, I believe it is.
I always love it when it's crap weather and I've got a great game to play.
Yeah.
I have no excuse not to go out. But yeah, that was pretty much us yesterday. I think we pretty much covered everything we saw.
Maybe I should finish off the sort of the steampunk Victorian thing, because I actually got an interview with Viktor Antonov. Of course, known for his work on Half-Life and Dishonored, and we talked to him about the design in Battlecry, and you know, got some great answers. Got a sign there. I'm not quite sure how to interpret it.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
7 minutes. That's more than I thought we had.
Wow, we can talk about what we're doing today as well.
Yep. Have we decided what?
Early and make the taxi.
Yes. What do you say in the stream or the chat? Do you want us to end early? Are we boring you?
You guys, your votes.
Don't give them the.
Don't give them the power.
Always our first interview.
That is true. We like I said, we finish these sort of streams, and then there's a taxi actually waiting for us outside, and we're out and we're straight away to our first interview. So you may see us exit very quickly at the end of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But finish off. So you're talking about Battlecry and just general sort of conversations about his influences and everything?
Yeah, influences and sort of how you tell a story through the design in this kind of game, because you don't really have the luxury of narrative in a traditional sense. And talking about a lot of you know, what he's trying to communicate through the character design and through environmental design and sort of the larger scope. And he was very much like, because the game is sort of built, it's very early on still, and they're sort of still building the game, and they'll take a lot of feedback, of course, on sort of how they structure it. But he wasn't about that at all when it comes to the universe and that stuff. That's his.
Yeah.
So that was very clear on that. That it's like, yeah, well, the characters and that stuff, that's something that we do. So interesting. He also mentioned that the demo. Once again, I played this at the pre-E3 event, so it's exactly the same demo, so I didn't play it again. But his favorite characters are the ones that are not in the game yet, so the Gadgeteer and the Brawler. But they do have them in the build at the offices, so they're playing with them. But it's not quite done to let the public have a hands-on with it. But the Gadgeteer in particular was his favorite.
Cool.
So. Support character there. So I think that the game will change a lot when you introduce that, because right now it's a little bit more straightforward deathmatch, and you want that sort of tactical edge to it as well. So interested to see how that is. Maybe we'll get, he mentioned that they're probably going to be at QuakeCon, probably going to be at Gamescom with later builds.
And just sort of check. Yeah, it's finding some sort of unique spin on the multiplayer space is very important these days. I mean, talking to Rainbow Six guys yesterday as well, and they had said very much that, as we thought, Patriots got ditched because it just wasn't up to their standard. They decided to refresh everything, and that's how they got the Siege. But yeah, keeping the multiplayer battles that we saw at the Ubisoft conference, whilst there will be a wholly single-player campaign, we're not really talking about that now. It seems like they're concentrating multiplayer. But the idea of having something they've said with the feedback they've had from gamers already is this feels like a very strong IP. It's got its own identity. People are very willing to accept that. And I am happy enough to have maybe a handful of games, a handful of multiplayer experiences that I concentrate and focus on, and each of them gives me a very different experience.
I think that's key. I think, you know, Rainbow Six needs to look at what made Rainbow Six great, and not at trying to compete with any of the sort of the bigger shooter franchises. So I think that's a very, very wise decision on their part. So my first appointment today is going to be to play with Project Morpheus. God
damn you, sir, and I'll ride with you. Where's that? Is that in the lobby? At the lounge?
I'm gonna play it at the Sony lounge on the second floor. There's also 8 stations on the actual show floor.
I have to make sure I get to see that, try it at some point before we disappear at the end of the day. Whereas for myself, it's Lords of the Fallen. I know nothing about that, so this will be an interesting experience for me.
I saw last year. It's an action RPG from, I think the producer actually was the producer on the first 2 Witchers.
Oh, nice, okay.
So Thomas Gopp.
Interest growing.
Yes, but it's not really a Witcher title in that sense. It's much more sort of action-based. I think the combat was pretty interesting from what I saw. So it's a little bit like a God of War, but maybe a little bit more RPG-like in the combat. And of course an RPG system to support that. So
cool. Excellent. And then after that, we're splitting and dividing. One of us will be at Devolver Digital to see their wealth of titles, because they've set up shop and trailer park across the way from E3. So at least you'll get some raise. And one of us will be along to Warner to get a smattering of their titles. Hopefully see some Batman goodness. I'm very much looking forward to that. And then Nintendo. Now Nintendo is one of the guys we've actually not really touched at all since we've been here. We've had
you did yesterday.
Well, that I mean, but in terms of the booth, sort of ran past it on an errand somewhere else and had a glance in. So it's actually hands-on with the booth. I'm very much looking forward to that game. Splatoon. Is it the Splatoon?
Splatoon.
I feel like that's I'm pronouncing it wrong. But Splatoon, real interesting. Splatoon, man. I'm going to see the Splatoons and see what they're doing. But I will be there having hands-on with that. I'm actually genuinely excited. I thought that was a real interesting concept. And yeah, we will be there. We will see other things across the day. But we're going to dial it off now. You can come back tomorrow.
Maybe we should give a tease what we're doing last, because I think it's kind of funny, because we're both ending up at the concourse, the smallest place at the whole show. One of us doing Pillars of Eternity, the other one is doing Tales from the Borderlands, Telltale Games. So we're finishing off with a couple of real fan favorite things. Pillars of Eternity, of course, Obsidian's kickstarted game, and well, I'm excited about the next Telltale game, that's for sure. So
definitely,
it's going to end on a high note.
And we will be back here tomorrow to discuss at a later time. I believe,
bit later,
9 o'clock, 9 a.m. our time, about
it's
what, 6 Central European time. So an evening slot with ourselves where we'll be going over the best of E3, our favorite moments, and recounting our experiences over the last few days.
And we may actually give some details on how
to win. What swag there is and what you can win.
Yeah, exactly. What we can get through customs. We shouldn't promise stuff that we can't get through. So.
Just tune in anyway, because it'll be a great show. But we're going to run off now because there's a taxi guy waving at me right now. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.